Hey guys, it's Trynket, and today I'm going to talk about my personal immigration story from Philippines to USA. So I was born in Cebu, Philippines, and even though Cebu is a big island and my family and I didn't live too far away from the beach, we actually lived in a really poor area in Cebu City. And I'm talking about dirt poor poverty. Like my mom sometimes didn't know if she could feed me and my older brother another meal the next day. My parents literally lived day to day. Oh my gosh. Whew, I got a little emotional there. Whoa. Not me crying at the beginning of this video. Maybe this is why I don't share the story. So as I was saying, my parents, they often didn't know if keeping it together. That was a very, very, very rough time for my family. Because, that's really stressful, like trying to figure out like if you can even feed your kids next day. My mom told us like there were times when the only thing they could give us was maybe a ball of rice. But when you're a kid, like you don't know anything different. And so to me, that was just the norm. And I don't know if like I just blocked out a lot of the negative stuff. For some reason, I don't remember ever being hungry. Maybe it's because I was just a really active kid and I was always just outside playing with everybody. And that's all I was ever focused on was just like playtime. And even though I don't have like a million memories from my childhood, the memories I do have, I remember them pretty vividly. And most of the memories I have were really positive. And I remember being really happy as a kid. Even though we didn't have much, I have such great memories of just like running outside in the sunlight and just like playing with the neighborhood kids. And that's really all I needed as a kid, it was just playtime and sunshine and maybe sometimes going to the beach with my family. One of my favorite childhood memories is I'm sitting in a palm tree leaf. It was like a really big palm tree leaf, and I think I was like 3 or 4, and my dad would just tug me along and pull me. And that was like my, that was my, I guess my ride, my bicycle at that time, because I didn't really have much else. So, but that's one of my favorite memories ever, because I remember thinking like, wow, this is amazing. Like I remember the rush of like, my dad pulling me, and he did that often, he would just like grab a random palm tree leaf like on the road. I thought it was like the funnest thing ever. But again, I didn't know anything different. Most of the kids in my neighborhood were in the same boat, so like I didn't know any other type of life. So for me, that was just normal. I've lightly touched on my childhood a few times in some of my songs, but I feel like I've only highlighted like the best parts of what I can remember, the beautiful beaches and other beautiful areas in Philippines. But I've never really shared some of the hardships and struggles that I had in my childhood. Even though I said, most of my memories were really happy memories, there were some dark moments. My neighborhood at the time was pretty dangerous and there was a lot of crime. One rough memory I have that I wish I didn't remember was when I was around 3 or 4 and it was nighttime, and my family and my neighbors, we heard, a loud gunshot, and we had heard gunshots before, but this one was like, it sounded like it was, right outside. So we heard this loud gunshot and we heard some screams, and I remember running out of the apartment before my family, which is something I always did. Like I always escaped from our apartment all the time, and it would drive my parents crazy. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I ran out of our apartment first, and I get to our street and I see a man in his Jeep. He's hunched over on his steering wheel, and his window is shattered because there was a bullet that went through the window, and there was blood all over the window and blood all over him and all over his head. He was clearly shot by somebody. And I remember I was one of the first ones at the site. He was just a couple feet away, and I just remember just staring at him for the longest time, because I was kind of like I think in shock, just processing like what I was seeing. It's weird. I don't really remember feeling super emotional about it. Like I just remember kind of like being in shock and then like switching my mindset to think that, okay, this is normal. This is everyday life. Like people get shot. I kind of just like accepted it. There's a lot of things that I saw as a kid that, I don't really want to share, but that was one of those things that was pretty traumatic. It wasn't until I had moved to America and my family and I moved to like a nicer neighborhood and realized, okay, that actually wasn't normal. The reason why I mention these things is because, it wasn't all like sunshine and beaches. It was a very rough beginning. I don't really know why I haven't shared this part of my immigration story a lot to people. I think because I don't know, I just never thought like anyone would want to hear that because it's pretty dark. I'm glad I get to talk about it now. And I think part of me too, like when I moved to the USA, I was 5 years old. So when I moved to the USA and saw how different everything is, and I got this understanding from, my family that, we need to blend in. I think that's why I kind of suppressed my childhood experiences in Philippines. But let me switch gears here because obviously that was pretty dark. I'm going to talk about the day that we left Philippines. If I remember correctly, we left in the evening. It was nighttime, and I remember it was such a big deal. Like my neighbors' kids and my friends, they were all like, oh my gosh, you're going to America. They talked about this with us for weeks and they were all excited. And I remember the night when we were leaving, a lot of them like were cheering from like their windows and they were like so excited for us. And I was 5, and at that age I had no idea what USA was like. And from what I heard from my friends who had no idea what USA was like either, they were telling me like, oh, we heard America has like gold streets. So I was thinking like, oh, this place is like heaven. They got like streets of gold. Let's go. For some reason as a kid, like I thought we were just going there temporarily. I didn't realize at the time it was a permanent thing. And I wasn't aware that I wouldn't see a lot of my neighbors and my friends anymore. To this day, I wonder about them and I'm like, man, I wonder if, they're okay. I wonder where they live now. I feel like I understood that America was far away. But, as a child, you don't really know like too much about like distance. You don't really know that it's like on the other side of the world. It wasn't until I started getting a little bit older, I realized, oh, we're staying here permanently. I've been able to visit my neighborhood a few times over the years. I've gone back to Cebu and visited my family's old apartment in the neighborhood, and sadly I didn't see like any of my friends left, but I still remember them to this day. And if you guys are ever watching this, I hope you're okay. But yeah, back to our departure night. That was so exciting. That's, one thing I really love and value about the Filipino culture is that we love to celebrate. We love to have a good time. We love to laugh and share, stories, and we're sentimental, and like family is important to us and our memories are important to us. We love sharing our experiences, and I love the sense of community and just the willingness to help each other out. That's just so Filipino, and I love that about us. One of the funniest things I remember when we first got into the US, I believe it was New York City where we first arrived. I peed on the plane. First thing I did in America was pee on the plane. And that was so crazy because I'm coming out of the plane, right? My dress was just like drenched in pee. I guess I had peed while I slept. That's just what kids do, whatever. But another funny thing was when we first arrived and we got off the plane, and I started to look around and I saw what the US looked like. I was like, I don't see any gold streets. I was like, where's the gold streets? Like, everybody was telling me there's gold streets, there's gold buildings, there's like gold everything. And I'm like, I don't see anything gold. Whoever told me that, you tricked me good. You tricked me good. One thing I did forget to mention was my dad came to America a year before me and my mom and my brother. So he had worked his butt off for a year to help petition me, my mom, and my brother to come to America. So that's how we were able to come to the USA, because my dad got a really good job offer. That was a really hard year, especially for my mom, you know, not seeing your husband for a year. That was hard for me and my brother too, because obviously we were like, where's dad, you know? Especially at my age, I didn't fully understand why he was gone for that long. And I still remember to this day, like so many times my mom was crying and you know, so depressed that he wasn't there. But they would write letters to each other, which, you know, back then there was no cell phones or emails or anything, so they would write these long letters. And I think they were still able to make phone calls, but it was really rare. That's how my parents stayed in touch for a whole year without my dad, and also my aunt, who helped petition all of us. Without them, we would have not immigrated here. And coming to the US as a kid was definitely a very huge adjustment. I obviously had to learn English very quickly. That wasn't too bad. I mean, you know, when you're a kid, you can learn languages pretty fast. It was the first time I made friends with American kids, you know, where most of my friends were not Filipino. So it was definitely an adjustment, you know, learning like the American ways and like what's normal for kids at that age. A funny memory I remember is like during Thanksgiving at school, you know, everyone was like, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And all the kids were saying, oh, we're going to eat turkey, blah, blah, blah. And then the teacher asks me, like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, we're going to eat chicken. And everyone in the classroom was like, what? You're like, you're not gonna eat turkey? And I was like, no, like, what's that? But anyways, that was just one of those silly like culture difference moments. And I remember going home and crying about it to my mom, because I was like, oh my gosh, everyone like made fun of me because I don't know what turkey is. It was a silly day though. Like, you know, I got along really well with a lot of my American friends, and I'm really grateful to have had a good childhood in America. We moved to Florida, so I grew up in Florida, and I feel really blessed and grateful to have had such great memories with a lot of my American childhood friends from kindergarten to high school. It was mostly really good experiences. Thankfully, when we moved to the US, my parents were in a much better financial state. Didn't have to think about, you know, whether me and my brother were going to eat the next day. My parents, you know, they worked so hard, multiple jobs, and sometimes like back-to-back shifts. I just remember seeing them so tired, you know, many times to support me and my brother, and eventually, you know, my sister whenever she was born. There's so many stories I could share from Philippines, like from my childhood. I'll have to save it for another time, but I basically wanted to just kind of give a gist of what it was like for me as a kid, immigrating, you know, from Philippines to US. So hopefully that answers a lot of questions, because I do get a lot of questions about where I'm from and like how it was like coming here to America.